Welcome, adventurer. I'm GM Goblin, and today we're diving into a very important topic. How to run your tabletop game for the neurodivergent player. As someone who's been a dungeon master for years, whose favorite people and family are neurodivergent, I've learned about creating an inclusive and supporting gaming environment. Let's explore some practical tips and insights to help you become more effective and empathetic for your players. Briefly talk about neurodiversity. Neurodiversity refers to the range of differences in individual brain function and behavioral traits. This includes conditions like autism, ADHD, dyslexia, and more. Neurodivergent individuals may process information, communicate, and interact with the world differently from neurotypical individuals. Understanding this is the key to running a successful game going forward. So, one size does not fit all in your tabletop game, especially when it comes to the neurodivergent individual. So I have a few tips to help you adapt your gaming style, and hopefully it will improve for everyone, not just that one person. Use simple and direct language. As I have said in previous videos, sometimes we have to watch how we as game masters communicate, as not everyone is going to be able to understand where we are coming from and the views and what we mean coming from our own mind and thoughts. It's especially so, possibly, whenever you're dealing with a neurodivergent individual. Avoid ambiguous instructions. These can very much sometimes get lost in translation. Summarize key points and ensure understanding by asking players. I do this a lot when we are rotating turns in combat or during a busy, stressful scene, or when your party's split up, or when a lot of things are just happening everywhere. In between a few turns, I'll slow things down, recap what is happening in the different areas of the fight or the scenarios so that my players know what's going on and can make sure they understand what they can do as players. Also, you may structure or help them with creating and updating their characters, either at that table session before you split up for the week or at a specific time later on. This leads me into my next part, structured sessions. Keep a consistent schedule and structure for your sessions. My wife, very much like this, she lives completely by her calendar. If it's not there, it does not exist. And if it just happens to exist and it's not on her calendar, it is probably going to cause an issue. So all of our gaming sessions, whether we're there or not, all of our pool parties or meetings with friends, everything is on her calendar because it provides her an anchor, a way to follow and track her life throughout the week. Provide a clear agenda and outline for the beginning of the session. I do a recap and go through. Also, if we're, like I mentioned, with character creation, sometimes we will fix a character during the recap, or if something was messed up, to make sure that everyone's ready for the session. Also, break down complex tasks into something that is more manageable. Sometimes, if we lead into too many different steps, this is going to also break down in translation to where only certain parts are going to be grasped by your player. Sensory conditions is another big one to watch out for that I had to learn to deal with. Be mindful of sensory sensitivities. Keep the gaming environment comfortable. Smells are a big thing here at my house. Background noises, it's too loud, something that can disturb and will distract the players. I run a lot of digital games, and I use a digital tabletop and battle map when I use any of our games in person. So I have had to change things up from sounds and effects that I use on my maps to make sure that it's not too distracting or overwhelming for players. Certain sounds, pitches, certain laughters, like a previous or a recent map, can really grind on your players, and it will affect them probably more than a slight annoyance, which it might be for you. Also remember that decisions themselves, though we're used to rolling with the punches as game masters and running with the scenes, your players will feel the pressure differently. It will hold a lot more weight. It will sometimes be too heavy, and you may have to back up and give them a minute to set themselves up to take a breath. Because as I had to learn, there is something to this decision tax, where if there's too many decisions either at one point, or if they have had to make too many decisions throughout their day, it just might not work anymore. It will not be something that they can do. Another good tip for some of your players might be to allow things like lots of breaks, fidget spinners, things at the tables. Even phones can be useful for this kind of behavior when it's not their turn or when it's too much and they have to have something to mess with, but you're going to have to watch it because she might pull out something like Pokemon Go and forget she's even playing Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder or whatever your table's doing at the time. So that might be something to watch for. Also, a comfortable setting is pretty good, or having a setting like my table where my games are at, where when the top is open, it is game time. And so it goes back to having that structure to where this kind of sets the mood and gets them into that mindset of, well, we're playing. I'm here. Now I'm here. Even more so than normal, you're going to need to be open to adjusting the pace of the game. Like I said, taking a break, slowing down, going back over something, encouraging your players to express their preferences and their needs. Provide options for both role-playing and combat scenarios to cater to different interests and strengths, or if one of those situations seem to be too stressful, either that day or normally to that individual. Also, if they have anxiety when it comes to direct RPing, and I've mentioned this quite a lot in my other videos, especially when there's something with confrontation, it may be a good idea to back off, or you don't role play so hard if there is this aggressive tone or confrontation, because it may actually add stress to that individual and keep them from being able to play and think of what they need. Also, being put on a spot and role playing at the time sometimes make it so that they feel too much anxiety, too much spotlight on them, so they're not able to focus on the task at hand. Fostering a supportive environment on your table. It is crucial, and there's a few things we should probably mention whenever it comes to people that are a little more sensitive when it comes to either boundaries or to, like previously with sensory issues. Respecting boundaries. Respecting personal space and boundaries can be quite literal with some people, so that if things are too close, it not only is distracting, but it can be detrimental to their mental state for that evening. Encourage open communication about comfort levels and things that trigger the individual. So they can tell you if something's wrong. That way you can figure out what to look for. And so you're not forcing that on the individual and causing them to be uncomfortable, because that will ruin the entire evening, not just for them, but possibly for the entirety of the table. They may not deal with it in the way that you think they will, or the way that you think they should, and the scenario could be far more impactful to them than you realize. Encouragement and positive reinforcements, celebrating small victories and contributions, providing positive feedback and encouragement regularly, good for someone who has those anxieties when it comes to role playing, or if they're worried about being in the spotlight. Maybe there's a reason they always dump their charisma and they don't want to be the one that goes out and pretends to be a Shakespearean actor, or they don't want to have everyone looking at them. I have had a player, while everyone gave up and decided they were going to put together this elaborate scheme, went in and sat down at a table, drawing in a notebook, and eventually struck up a calm, slow conversation with the bartender. I rewarded that with information because not only did the player try to do it in a different manner than the rest of her party, but because that individual was reaching outside of their comfort area and they were showing progress and focus on the game. Now, social dynamics. Facilitating group discussions and trying to ensure everyone has a chance to speak. As I've said before, I try and let everyone shine. I try and give certain situations and scenarios that everyone a little bit of success and focus in. And this is the same thing when it comes to the entirety of the group. Also, addressing issues like bullying or exclusions promptly. Not everyone is able to stand up for themselves, be confrontational. So it's your job as the game master to stop the issue before it gets out of hand. Let them beat around or push around your other characters. If you have the guy who always wanted to turn left and everyone else is wrong, then maybe you need to focus on the character that is wanting to do something else. Or you focus your spotlight on the character that is wanting to investigate while everyone else is running through something, and maybe you have to pause the scene and ask one at a time. But that's something that you can do because you can control your table. As someone who did not grow up in a household used to someone with this type of condition, and being the now adult only one in my house who is neurotypical, as I've had to get used to and learn myself. But by sharing this hobby with my wife, not only made me more understanding, but it's made her my favorite person to have at my table. So remember, understanding neurodiversity, adapting your game style, and fostering a supportive environment as needed, you can create an inclusive and enjoyable experience for all your players. Learning to be more aware will help you not just at the table, but in your everyday life when you're dealing with people, anyone, everywhere. Now, if you're looking for help on how to be a GM and tips, or maybe some kind of pattern or way to keep up with your games as a neurodivergent game master, I'm probably not your guy. I don't know what it's like, but with the search, I'm sure you can find someone out there who can give you a hand, or maybe someone on Reddit if you ask. Thanks for watching. May your dice always roll high. If you like this video, check out my others. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. If you have any tips or requests, drop them in the comments below. And until next time, may your crits be epic, your adventures legendary, and your gaming table filled with laughter.